of that is the Bible. I am unapologetically 100% in favor of is the Bible. Jesus is the Word. There is no delineation. If the Bible says it, that's what Jesus is, and that's what Jesus believes. That's what this podcast is actually about, is to actually alert people to what is coming and what is our responsibility in the midst of it.
She says, at least in Somalia, we execute pedophiles, i.e. like Trump. She had pretty poor timing because about 48 hours before she said that, a archive emerged where Trump himself had called 2006 before Jeffrey Epstein was even convicted of anything. So he was saying, you got to get this guy out of here. And the subtext was he had seen him with these young girls. And so it's pretty clear that he didn't partake in what Jeffrey Epstein was offering, yet she says this. But then the point is, why would you go back to that theme again, that things are better in Somalia, especially given your family's history where your father was a general, one of the military hirelings, is President Barry, that committed genocide. People forget that about her. She poses as a left-wing cause celeb, but she was from the elite of the elite government hierarchy that was conducting a war of death. And that's how they fled here.
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Young people speaking their mind.
Gov, who's to blame here? Pritzker or the Bears? The Bears, the fool.
Well, our Nepo baby billionaire governor just got outplayed by the governor of Indiana. I wish I was still governor, because the Bears would never leave. And Pritzker was outplayed because his priorities are all wrong. His priorities are all about fighting law enforcement. It's fight law enforcement when it comes to protecting illegal immigrants, and tens of thousands of whom are violent criminals. Why? Because he is pandering and servicing the lunatic fringe and the Bolshevik majority that has now taken over the Democrat Party. It's no accident that the Bears want to leave Chicago and in Illinois, because, like the other businesses you pointed out, nearly 1 million people have left Illinois since he's been the governor. And since he's been the governor, he's raised taxes and fees more than 50 times on the people of this state, spent nearly $3 billion on illegal immigrants. His priorities reflect this new Democrat Party. And the Chicago Bears fan base are traditional, hardworking, working people, blue collar. Right. The people the old school Democrats used to stand for, but this new school Democrats with this Nepo baby Bolshevik billionaire are pandering to the crazy left wing and doing it at the expense of working people. And as a result of that, we may lose our beloved Bears. And it's really reprehensible.
I've done personal work for the Rothschild family in France. Well, specifically, I talked to Elie de Rothschild, and so I mentioned that earlier. So he represented their whole family. So there have been a whole bunch of people. Most of them I never would have met, but I knew Elie. He would say, like, I'm providing financial advice to the founders of Google. I'm providing financial advice to Jeff Bezos.
Answer the question. 5 words, okay? Answer the question.
Okay.
Did you yourself write this letter to Mr. Epstein?
Sadly, I did.
Did Ms. Maxwell approach you to write this letter for Mr. Epstein's birthday?
I think the request was to write a card or a note or something for a birthday book.
And did that come from Ms. Maxwell?
I don't remember.
Mr. Wexner, would you please read the main body of the birthday note for the record, please?
I wanted to get you what you want, so here it is. Happy birthday, your friend Leslie.
And what was your understanding of what Mr. Epstein would want?
He was a bachelor, so I drew a pair of boobs.
You've
As a kind of a joke and offhandedly, I'd say.
understand.
I hope you do.
You've said a few times throughout this deposition today that you did not consider Mr. Epstein a friend of yours. However, you signed this letter, and I quote, "Your friend Leslie." Why would you sign "your friend Leslie" to someone you did not consider to be a friend of yours?
I don't know.
I know that you're a Christian, and I guess my kind of concerns is like Islamophobia.
Are you Muslim?
Yes, I am.
What is the best model for a Muslim country in your view?
I guess, like,
Do you enjoy not having to cover yourself in public?
yeah, I guess.
So that you don't like Islam very much then, because majority of Islamic countries would require you to have full garb in public.
That's not fair to say that.
You literally could not dress like this in the streets of Riyadh as a woman. This is way too provocative, way too much skin. You as a woman, you don't have freedom of speech. You can't run for public office. You can't own property. Islam is against Western values. It's incompatible with Western values. And we in the West actually think you should have the rights that you have right now to speak and to be able to show, the skin you show here and, be able to have a happy life.
The irony here, John Roberts, the Chief Justice, who somehow found language in the Constitution that allowed Obamacare to go through, saying that forcing you to buy health insurance under penalty of law was the same as a tax. Therefore, Congress had the power to force you to buy a product against your will, health insurance. Somehow John Roberts found that language in the Constitution, but couldn't find language having to do with the tariffs. It's amazing what they can find in the Constitution when they're motivated to do so.
CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich is here. Vanessa, give us the reality check. Can President Trump impose these new tariffs?
Yes, he can, Jake.
All right, here we go. Friday night, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing good. As always, be blessed in the mighty name of Jesus. All right, let me say it to everybody in the chat. Granite 2468 is on. Auntie Mama is on. Trev McGroin is on. JGCK is on. Prayerworks 2 is on. General Plowman is on. Mr. Cool Dude is on. Peg McGroin is on. And Johns is on. Let's see. Johnny F62 is on. Prayerworks 2 is on. Clean. Sanchez is on. Big Jim. Go Blue is on. Jules 21 Hours is on. K4 VMS is on. Mike Griffith is on. Let me see here. Scrolling down. S. Clark is on. JGCK is on. Arcadia Angel is on. Lita Bonita is on. USA Abby Girl is on. Tim L. T-Bird is on. Sheila K is on. Scrolling down. Laura Jean Lynn is on. Scrolling down. The one and only Release of the Hog is on. Let me see here. Jim Brody is on. Hanslick Donovan is on. Snag Dog is on. Let me see here. Gloyd Shaw is on. LEG is on. King Slutsy McGroin is on. Milwaukee James is on. LA 106 Times is on. Stephen Toms is on. K4 VMS is on. Milwaukee James is on. Les Cruz Brown is on. Key Lime 13 is on. Conservative Warrior is on. Sue Fawn 68 is on. Swethy is on. I got a whole family here in the studio tonight. Let's go. Milwaukee James is on. S. Clark is on. Key Lime 13 is on. Those Jesus People is on. Serene Pickle is on. Hanslick Donovan is on. Let me see here. Scrolling down. I'll grab a couple more here, and then we're going to get rolling. TJ T1 is on. All right, let me see. Pretty much seeing everybody here. Oh, there we go. Leon Fish Puppy. She is on. Let me see here. One more, and we're going to call it. We can get going here. One I haven't seen. There we go. There's one for always is here. Thank you so much. Nate Dad 1 is on. All right, let's hop right to this thing now. So we had the Supreme Court decision on the Trump tariffs, basically removing a portion, just so everybody knows, It's a portion of the Trump tariffs. It is not all of the Trump tariffs. And we'll go over it. So I pulled this off of Grok. Finally saying it right, Aaron. I finally stopped saying like Gronk, like Gronkowski. So anyway, from Grok. So here's the summation. The U.S. Supreme Court issued a major ruling on February 2026, striking down President Trump's sweeping tariffs imposed under the IEEPA, though. Only those under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Now, listen, we all know how D.C. works. All of us know how D.C. works. You can make anything happen in D.C. You basically just blow off the SCOTUS and do whatever you want. That's what you do. But he doesn't even have to do that because these are just the tariffs that are under, it's hard to say it, IEEPA. They call it EPA. So I'll go to that. So these are just the tariffs under the EPA, which is enacted in 1977, law intended for national emergencies involving foreign threats. In a 6-3 decision, Aaron, aren't you glad we won?
Yep.
Aren't you glad
Always.
we won? Because we obviously, for it to be a 6-3 against Trump, we only have 3, count them 3, leftist judges in the court. Let's see, it's what? Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? So that's it. So how did this happen? Well, because we had the 3 traitors. Now, Aaron, you can shout it out. Brent, you can shout it out if you want. Let's think of all the times that the Democrats crossed the aisle.
Never.
Never in a million years would you see Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, or Ketanji Brown Jackson, who doesn't know what a woman is. Well, never will you see them ever cross the aisle. They'll never cross the aisle. But yet we always have the willing Republican cucktards will always cross the aisle. The chief he's not just the chief justice. He needs to be like he would be CCT, chief cucktard. John Roberts did it. So so they all crossed the aisle and decided that President Trump does not have the power to issue tariffs under the EPA. Isn't that amazing? But John Roberts, as was said in the pregame, who likes to share castles, this is not an exaggeration, Aaron just brought it up right before the podcast, who loves, and we ran the whole story, likes to share castles with conservative lawyers, the Liberty Counsel, let's see, Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch? No, with Norm Eisen. So you think John Roberts is a right-winger. I know that I'm preaching to the choir right now, the 445 that are watching right now. But John Roberts is no more of a right-winger than Chuck Schumer. And you're like, well, yeah, but he does right-wing things. That's because if he didn't, he'd be impeached. He holds on the power so that in all key decisions like Obamacare, he holds on. They do the innocuous conservative things. And again, it sounds like at times false accusations. He couldn't survive if he didn't do certain things. I don't mean that literally. I mean politically. So he's hanging out with Norm Eisen, literally sharing a castle. Remember who Norm Eisen is? Whether it's Norm Eisen, Mark Elias, these are the Reid Hoffman. These are the funders and the lawyers behind everything anti-Trump. They're behind the Reid Hoffman behind the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit. Norm Eisen behind basically every lawsuit against Donald J. Trump and his administration. And why would John Roberts be butt buddies with him in a castle in Europe? Why? How could that? It's like Mark Elias was meeting with Brad Raffensperger right before the Georgian election to make the ballots unadjudicatable right before the election. You think these are Republicans. They are not, because they say Republican things that makes them no. They hold on to that power because, and they do and say, they do minor Republican things and they say major Republican things so they are not beaten in primary elections. And I know that doesn't apply to the Supreme Court because sadly it's a lifetime appointment, which it shouldn't be. We need to be looking at changing that. But anyway, so you had John Roberts voting against us and you had, let's see, Neil Gorsuch voting against us. Who voted? Who was it? Let's see. Who appointed Neil Gorsuch? Donald J. Trump. And then, of course, the ultimate cucktard woman, Amy Coney Barrett, voted against us. Again, they vote against us. Because saying that Trump doesn't have the power. Now, remember, John Roberts said from the pregame that Hussein Obama had the power to force everybody to buy insurance. Remember that? Under Obamacare? Remember, and by the way, of course, we're still under Obamacare. Yeah. Everybody remembers when that was passed, right? Still under Obamacare. It was passed because the deciding vote, John Roberts, said that Obama had the constitutional authority to force everybody to buy insurance from the Obama website. Where can he derive constitutional authority for Obama in that situation and not Trump in this situation? Aaron, can you explain it?
Nope.
Can anybody explain it? Explain it to me in the chat. I'm scrolling down to the bottom. Man, you guys. Oh wow, I can't even get to the bottom. Robin Aroni already in the rant. Love you. Thank you. So anyway, so that's what happened. So anyway, go back to the decision. The court held that EPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, but it does authorize Obama to impose insurance. That you actually have to write a check for insurance. And again, this is one of those things that I could spend 30 minutes on, and I'm fighting myself not to. The justices reasoned, oh boy, that the law's language allowing the president to regulate importation does not extend to levying duties or tax tariffs. So the laws allowing the president to regulate importation, wouldn't tariffs be regulating importation?
You'd think.
Yeah, Aaron, please chime in. It actually helps me psychologically when you chime in, because does not extend to levying duties. Why? But it does enable him to do full embargoes.
What's the difference?
And again, this is just under EPA, which are revenue does not extend to levying duties or tax-like tariffs, which are revenue-raising measures typically reserved for Congress. Typically reserved, but not exclusively for Congress. No prior president has interpreted EPA this way, and the statute makes no explicit mention of tariffs. This ruling, if it doesn't make explicit mention of tariffs, then tariffs are under the jurisdiction of the president. This ruling invalidates a significant portion of Trump's broad Liberation Day tariffs, including a baseline 10% universal tariff on imports from most countries, plus higher rates on nations like China that didn't reach trade deals. These were enacted via executive orders citing emergency powers. The decision is a notable check on executive authority over trade policy, even though the court has a conservative majority. Dissenters, Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh, great job by the three of them, argued in favor of broader presidential leeway. Key impact, well, since the presidents are allowed to force you to buy insurance and force people to take vaccinations, right? What happened to all those Supreme Court? Key impacts are key impacts and reactions, economic and fiscal reactions and impacts. Estimates suggest 150 and 175 billion in collected tariffs could be subject to refunds to importers. Trump's response: in a defiant White House news conference shortly after the ruling, President Trump called the decision a disgrace and criticized the justices, including some conservatives, as fools and lapdogs. Well, when you're hanging out with Norm Eisen, the most leftist attorney in America, and you're a conservative justice, you are a fool and a lapdog. He announced he had signed an executive order. This is so good. This is why I love Trump. Anybody can say, Tom, you've criticized Trump, but nobody can ever say that I don't love Trump. That's why I love him. He announced he had signed an executive order imposing a new 10% global tariff, and he also threatened to even do more than that, using alternative legal authorities, likely under trade law section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 and section 232 national security provisions, vowing to continue his America First trade agenda. So Trump, of course, fighting right back. Go to the first one for me, Brent. So here we go. Hakeem Jeffries, very happy man today, even though none of it's going to change anything. And none of that money's ever going to be returned. And by the way, the Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom, never mentions about whether or not Trump has to return the tariff money or not. So what do you do? What do you think you do, Aaron? Never return the freaking thing. It's ours now. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And all these tariffs are, remember, Trump had actually promised to write checks to every American through these and basically tax rebates to every American via the tariffs. Great job, Democrats. Because, by the way, that money would go to Democrats and Republicans. It was like $2,000 per American, something like that. Can't remember. The Supreme Court decision striking, here's dime store Obama. The Supreme Court decision striking down the harmful Trump tariffs is a big victory for the American people. How exactly? It's another crushing defeat for the wannabe king. So how exactly is this a great, can anybody explain to me? And again, Brent, Aaron, you guys, if something pops into mind, please chime in. I know everybody's scared to interrupt me, but when I say you can't, just chime in. But the thing is, can anybody give me a list of how this is going to benefit me? I was doing really good under the tariffs. Tariffs were working well for me. I was doing really good. And I mean, again, I'm just curious how I want a list from Hakeem. I would love a list from him explaining to me how it is that this benefits me. I would love to know. Just a list, a short list. How about 3 things? 3 benefits. If you're gonna make these statements, but of course he's a disingenuous, dishonest, a man who lacks all integrity, all human dignity. That's who he is. He's just a dishonest, disingenuous demon, and he just puts out leftist tripe, just leftist minutia. It means nothing. It cannot be explained, and there are no lists that actually verify what he's saying. So go to the next one for me. Here earlier now from Hakeem Jeffries, the Supreme Court majority has shredded whatever scintilla of credibility had left. Look at the date on that.
Whoops.
That was just from, I thought they had no. So now they have credibility, but in July of 2024, they had no credibility. I mean, again, so this just shows you that who is it that has no credibility? Hakeem Jeffries has no credibility. All right, let's go to the next one. End wokeness video. Here's what AOC says to do with Supreme Court decisions. This is from 2022. Play it for me.
There has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
So there you go. That's what you do. And I've been saying this for months, for Trump to blow off Boasberg and other, now that's an appellate court judge, but blow these people up. How are they going to enforce it? You know who would have to enforce it? Trump's DOJ. There's no way. That's if it's criminal. This hasn't even been designated as criminal. It's been designated unconstitutional. So it's not even criminal. If you violate somebody's free speech, that is not criminal, it's civil. So this is what that would be. This is a civil violation. Trump should ignore it. AOC says to ignore it. She's on the record. And by the way, she's not the only one. Joe Biden's on the record numerous times. Remember when it was the verdict of the SCOTUS that he was not allowed to pay back student loan debt. And he did it anyway. Yep. And he said publicly, I'm blowing off the SCOTUS decision. And AOC has actually a cogent point for once in her life, is this all depends on enforcement. Who's going to enforce it? Trump's DOJ, Trump's Attorney General, but because you have the civil division of the Attorney General also. So who exactly is going to enforce? Who's going to enforce this? I mean, I'm just, there is nobody. Is it going to be the SCOTUS police? Pam Bondi? Todd Blanche? I mean, who exactly is going to enforce this? There is nobody to enforce it. There is no SCOTUS police. So you know what you do? Blow it off. It really has to get to that point where because the 3 branches of government are supposed to be, remember, equal. It's supposed to be equal, 3 branches of equal government. They're supposed to be equal. But now the Supreme Court is able to dictate to both the Congress. It's all gone. It's all leaned now heavily to SCOTUS, which is actually in some ways biting the Democrats in the rear end because we've gotten favorable SCOTUS rulings on things like Roe v. Wade. But in this case, of course, we lose out because the SCOTUS, though, should not be able to dictate to the executive or dictate to the legislative. They shouldn't be able to dictate. They have their specific lane. But now what happens now is everything is brought to the SCOTUS to make rulings on the other 2 branches of government. That shouldn't be that way. So right now we have elected Donald J. Trump. There is no language in any of what in EPA that forbids him from doing this. There is no language that forbids him from doing it. Therefore, he can do it. But somehow they reach, I mean, it's such disgusting. It's Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett. Of course, I expect this from Sotomayor and Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, who doesn't know what a woman is. I expect it from them. But for some reason, out of some realm of imagination, John Roberts, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett reached into their imagination and said that Trump is forbade via the EPA from doing that, even though the EPA doesn't forbade him, and basically said that it was unconstitutional for him to do it. There's nothing that remotely says that. So, and he can't appeal it to anybody because this is the SCOTUS, so just simply blow it off. And he really is, because he's just reissuing another 10% tariff based on other acts that have been put in place, one in 1974. So here's Trump, Johnny MAGA video. We'll do both of these in a row, guys. Johnny MAGA video and then a Sarah Rose video. Trump just walked into a darkened press briefing room and went around the Supreme Court. And then Trump slaps Jeffries and the rhinos who backed SCOTUS decision. Play it for me.
Which have also been confirmed and are fully allowed. Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies.
Several of Republicans in Congress have supported this decision by the Supreme Court, and Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, has called you a wannabe king. Why wouldn't
him a low IQ?
But why wouldn't
he? Doesn't even know. And I watched him the other day interview. The guy doesn't even know what a tariff is.
But there's been bipartisan criticism.
No, not bipartisan.
Of the tariff.
Excuse me.
There's several Republicans have said that.
Yeah,
But why wouldn't you just work with Congress to come up with a plan?
I don't have to
push tariffs.
I have the
through?
right to do tariffs, and I've always had the right to do tariffs, and it's all been approved by Congress, so there's no reason to do it. All we're doing is we're going through a little bit more complicated process, not complicated very much, but a little more complicated than what we had. We'll be able to take in tariffs, more tariffs. And the Congress people and the Congress,
down the Canadian tariffs last week. There's been votes in the Senate against it.
Yeah, because we lost 2 Republicans or 3 Republicans because they're not good Republicans. What you don't say, you don't say that we got 215 votes.
You need 218 for something to pass.
Yeah, sure we do. We might have lost 3 votes, and we got. And what was the score on the Republican side? 215-3, right? But you don't say that. We have great unity. There's great unity in the Republican Party, and I hope everyone's going to vote Republican, because otherwise you won't have a country left, because these people have been they are destroying our country. Please.
Mr. President,
yeah, and Aaron, do me a favor, just side by side that and mute it for me, because I just want to say one thing, just look at, as Trump is talking here, look at the stock market, look at the NASDAQ, look at the S&P. Every single one of them is in the green. Like, as he's talking, you see it scroll through. And even though the tariffs have been shot down, not really. Look at the Dow, just shy of 50,000 again. I mean, and the NASDAQ flips, it's way up. Look how far it's up to. There's Dow, okay, and there's NASDAQ. Again, how do you justify being a Democrat? Everything you do sucks. Everything you do. You got $9 cartons of eggs when you're a Democrat. I mean, I will never understand. You're sitting there and you're watching Trump win, and that means America wins. You're winning. Trump. The wage scale is up. Everything is up. Unemployment is way down at 4.3%. You're winning as a Democrat. Your wages are up. Unemployment is down. Grocery prices are down. Gas prices right here in Florida in the 2s. And so what do? Well, since it's Trump, I hate it. You're an idiot. Because if this was a Democrat and things were going well for me, I would cite that which they are doing well. If Joe Biden had implemented Trump's tariff scheme, I would have been like, great job, Joe Biden. Yep. And by the way, he did. He kept Trump's tariffs in place. He never took them down. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Even though they're immoral, according to Rand Paul. Again, and Rand Paul's just royally pissing me off right now. Him and Thomas Massey, both of them. But anyway, all right, bring it back to me. All right, let's have some fun. Let's go to the Olympics. Let's go to the Olympics. Ready? This is fun. This is just I love rejoicing in this stuff. All right, let's go to Amber Glenn first. Eric, you side by side it. Remember, she's the one that's got a horrible life. Horrible life as a trans woman. Now, there she is. I want to congratulate Brent. I want to congratulate Aaron. I want to congratulate me and the 480 people that are watching right now on the podcast. You and I paid for her to go over there. Okay. And she has this horrible life in her brand new clothes and her brand new Olympic village, first class, everything. She's over there doing nothing right now, but Brent and Aaron, me, you, and everybody are paying for it. She's doing nothing now over there now, but hanging around the Olympic village and celebrating her 13th place, I don't want to call it victory, 13th place finish in ice skating. That's how good she did. So, she needs to be concentrating on skating. She was supposed to finish way higher than that. But she was very much entrenched in her own LGBTQ spirit plus 2A ideology and agenda, bashing Trump and everything else. So she finished in 13th place. And then let's compare her to Alyssa Liu and others and how they finished. All right, play it for me.
Yeah, it's been a hard time for the community overall under this administration. It isn't the first time that we've had to come together as a community and try and fight for our human rights. And now, especially, it's not just affecting the queer community, but many other communities. And I think that we are able to support each other in a way that we didn't have to before. And because of that, it's made us a lot stronger. I hope I can use my platform and my voice throughout these games to try and encourage people to stay strong in these hard times. I know that a lot of people say, you're just an athlete, like stick to your job, shut up about politics, but politics affect us all. It is something that I will not just be quiet about because it is something that affects us in our everyday lives. So,
let's go.
Of course,
Let's
there
go.
are things that I disagree with.
Let's
but
go.
As a community, we are
Yes!
strong and we support each other.
Yes!
And brighter days are ahead of us.
She should concentrate on skating because she finished in 13th place. Now let's go to News Doge video. Here's Alyssa Liu. And now I'm going to contrast this with Eileen. So you have Alyssa Liu and Eileen Gu. And Brent's laughing. But it's true, that's the names. So we're gonna contrast them, okay? So because Alyssa Liu, Aaron, you can side by side it. She just won gold, and her dad there on the top left-hand corner, he is a former Chinese citizen who fled China, fled the CCP, fled the PLA into the United States of America. Then China has recently offered his daughter, the gold medal winner, who concentrates on skating and the United States flag. See her holding up the flag right there? Concentrates on America. I don't really care. If you want to be a leftist at the Olympics. Shut up. But anyway, so that's what she concentrates on. And she was recently offered millions of dollars by who? To skate for who? For China, just like Eileen Gu. She did too. But Eileen Gu, though, doesn't even have a family that fled China. Eileen Gu, that's the skier who only won 2 silvers. She doesn't even have a family that fled China, so she doesn't even really have any sort of connection to China. Raised in America, born in America, currently a Stanford student, took millions of dollars from the CCP. That sounds weird, doesn't it? That you can take millions of dollars from the CCP and ski for them in the Olympics when you were born and raised in Northern California. And was trained by, listen, I don't know this, but she was trained in the United States. I'm assuming that you and I paid for some of her training too. And then she goes and skis for China. But here we go. So here is Alyssa Liu's family after she wins gold after concentrating on skating instead of Amber Glenn concentrating on who's having sex with who. Play it for me.
Her dad, Arthur, watching.
No nose ring. There you go. She's offered millions to skate for China. She turns it down. Clay Travis video. Let's talk about Eileen, something like that. Eileen Gu. Play for me.
Let's bring in our friend Clay Travis, Outkick founder. Clay, I just find that the contrast here really stark. Eileen Gu has reportedly accepted millions of dollars from the Chinese government. She says she has no opinion on Jimmy Lai's incarceration or on the Uyghur terrible situation in China, even though she's an international relations major at Stanford. Your thoughts?
I think you laid it out perfectly, Martha. I was watching last night. My wife was super excited to watch the women's figure skating gold medal event, and I didn't know much about Alyssa Liu, who you just laid out that story. I think it's the best story of the Olympics. Her dad, Arthur, 1989, stands up against the Chinese Communist government. There are also reports, Martha, that she made the exact opposite choice of what Eileen Gu did, that China, when they found out she was really good at figure skating, offered her tons of money to ski for them, to figure skate for them, and she refused to do it because she wanted to represent the United States. And now Eileen Gu is upset because people are being critical of her online. I think that's very fair. She took millions of dollars. To your point, she's super smart. She goes to Stanford. She made nearly a perfect score on the SAT, and she claims she doesn't know enough to have an opinion on the Uyghurs or to have an opinion on China imprisoning people like Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong. She's lying, and I think she deserves the criticism. More importantly, though, I think Alyssa Liu deserves all the praise. Two different choices to make here. Alyssa Liu's an American hero. I think Eileen Gu is an American scapegoat who, frankly, chose China over her own country.
You said you didn't talk politics, you didn't talk policy, you did talk investment. Here's the great question for me, and Mr. Soros has an open invitation to come spend an hour with me here on Woken Show, or his son for that matter, because I just want to understand the vision. What is the vision of George Soros for this world?
Yeah, again, many people have asked me that. I don't understand. Country's been very good to him. It was just like this young Olympic athlete that the vice president was talking about earlier on the previous show. America was great to her. She sold out to China. That America was great to Mr. Soros. He has a very different vision, and it's mercifully, it is one that the American people don't share. So, but
well,
So I tell you, there's one thing I can't say that I hate it the most, but I might hate it the most is disloyalty. I can't. Honestly, you're made by America. Paid for probably by America. I wonder if she probably doesn't need it now because she's received millions of dollars from the People's Liberation Army, Eileen Gu, but she probably has received a lot of it. Who's paying for Stanford? I don't know. Me and my parents, does she get government grants? Whatever it is, but these people just turncoat on America. Soros is one of them. America was great to him too. He just turncoats on us. I just can't stand disloyalty. All right, since we're talking about courts today, this is a video I've had actually for a little while, but I just had to play it because it just shows you the startling stupidity or ineptitude or just outright stupidity of the left. Eric Schmidt video, that's Senator Eric Schmidt. The presiding judges of the FISA court, the secret court, just appointed Jennifer Daskal. See, the judges appoint their own people. That should never be. To advise the secretive court. She helped create, this has nothing to do with Trump because this is not a Trump appointee. This is the FISA court, which is supposed to root out, espionage and things like that. She helped create the Biden administration's Nina Jankowicz Disinformation Governance Board. Look at this exchange. Play it for me.
Senator, it's my view that it's not appropriate for the government to censor any points of view.
Literally, you were a part of the Disinformation Governance Board of the United States of America. My contention is the Orwellian name of Ministry of Truth was already taken, so the Disinformation Governance Board slid right in, and you were a big part of this. I mean, you wrote the charter. You'd also wanted to censor views and dispel disinformation about the efficacy of masks. Another conspiracy theory that the government thought it was their job to dispel. And so I find it kind of rich that you're here expressing concerns about First Amendment concerns about anything. A federal district court judge said this was the biggest affront to the First Amendment in the history of the United States of America, this censorship enterprise that the Biden administration engaged in that you were a big part of. We would be remiss to not at every point out the people who were involved in this, who would trample individual rights in this country, their ability to speak their mind because they thought the government should decide what the truth was. And this country was founded on the principle that that's not the case, that individuals can make up their own minds. So hopefully we never go down this road again. But you ought to be ashamed of yourself for your role in this.
Thank you, Senator Schmidt. Senator Corn.
And she's just, remember, that's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This is a big deal. And this is like the whole National Endowment for Democracy, the CIA cutouts, where you and I are paying for. Remember, the Republicans are the ones who just passed to continue to fund the National Endowment for Democracy, just like the Atlantic Council and numerous other things, which are just CIA cutouts to proliferate leftist agendas around the world, like banning speech, abortion, and transgender rights. That's what all these people are about. And Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is supposed to be detecting, it's basically a court to give you warrants to root out foreign intelligence in our country. And who is part of appointed Jennifer Daskal to advise them? Jennifer Daskal, who's supposed to then, if you're supposed to be rooting out foreign intelligence in your country, i.e. people like Soros, who are here to ban speech, right? Whatever it may be, to ban speech, to open our borders, whatever it is, then you should be a real purveyor of the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, right? Not somebody who wrote the charter for the Disinformation Governance Board. If you're ever wondering why things go bad, this is the establishment inside of DC. Are people like Jennifer Daskal, Nina Jankowicz was one of them too. And they have absolutely no problem, as Senator Schmidt said, well, you know what? The Orwellian Hitler-esque name of Ministry of Truth was taken, so you guys went to Disinformation Governance Board. See, we are doomed to repeat that which we forget. People are already forgetting. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it with Christians. People are forgetting, COVID from really COVID ended. The emergency COVID, the emergency powers of the federal government, the deemed emergency of COVID was ended in April of 2023. Just so everybody knows. I mean, that's how long 15 days to flatten the curve went. Because if you give a government emergency powers, they'll create the emergency so they have the powers. But this is why, if you're ever wondering, why is it that we absolutely reek? Why is it that it stinks out of the swamp of D.C., the cesspool, the feces floating cesspool of Washington, D.C.? It's because of people like Jennifer Daskal. They get into these, now, how long is this appointment? Basically lifetime until somebody fires her. Anybody from the FISA court going to fire her? The FISA court is working. Remember, FISA court is to secure the warrants from James Comey, from the FBI, that secured the warrants to spy on President Trump, both at the Trump Tower and the White House. That's what the FISA court did. All lies from Comey, all lies from the FBI, but they are the ones who actually, and Rod Rosenstein too, they lied on the FISA warrants, and any judge worth his salt would have known that they were lies. He lied on the FISA warrants, saying things like, the media is reporting that Donald Trump colluded with Russia. Well, the people who told the media that were the people that created the warrant. I mean, get what I'm just, and that's what the FISA court fell for. The FISA court falls for the FBI telling the media, just say the Washington Post, that Trump is colluding with Russia. And then they put on their FISA warrant to wiretap President Trump that the media is reporting that President Trump colluded with Russia after the FBI is the one who told it to him. So that just shows you, if you're ever wondering why things stink so bad, that's why. All right, let's go to New York City. Jeffrey Mead video. NYC wants, get these numbers now, get these numbers. NYC wants a $127 billion budget. Does anybody know what the state of Florida's budget is? NYC wants a $127 billion per year budget. What's the budget for the entire state of Florida? Remember, NYC, because they're hemorrhaging people, it's down in the 8 millions. In that one city, they want a $127 billion budget for the city itself, with 8 million people in it. The latest numbers out of Florida is Florida now has 24 million people live here. So Florida has 24 million people, and our entire state budget is $117 billion. New York City wants a $127 billion budget. New York City has an 8.8 million people. Florida has 24 million. Play it for me.
At the heart of this path is a property tax increase. This would effectively be a tax on working and middle-class New Yorkers who have a median income of $122,000. The second path also requires us to raid our reserves. it would mean withdrawing $980 million from our city's rainy day fund in fiscal year 2026 and $229 million from the Retiree Health Benefit Trust in fiscal year 2027. These are steps that have been taken before, but only in moments of extraordinary external crisis. Mayor Bloomberg's response to the 2008 financial collapse, and Mayor de Blasio's response to the enormous revenue shortfall caused by the pandemic.
Okay, so then that begs the question, why does it need to happen now? You know, we're not in a situation like the 2008 crisis. We're not in a COVID situation. So yeah, like why does this need to happen now? Well, that's because Mamdani is trying to increase New York City's budget by about $11 billion next year. So just to be clear, if he wasn't trying to increase New York City's budget by $11 billion next year, there would be no gap. There's about a $5.5 billion gap, and he wants to increase the budget by about $11 billion. So you have about $5.5 billion that would be left if he wasn't trying to increase it by $11 billion. So he's going out here and acting as if this is a crisis, but it's not a crisis, or you could argue it's a crisis of his own making. So they want to take spending from about $116 billion to $127 billion for New York City alone. Now, think about this. Florida's budget for the entire state of Florida is about $117 billion, which would be less than what Mamdani wants for New York City. New York City has a population of about 8.5 million. Florida has a population of around 24 million people. So Florida has around 3 times the amount of people that New York City has. And New York City has a higher budget than the entire state of Florida. They have enough money in New York City. They're just not using it properly. So now he's talking about raiding people's retirement funds and increasing property taxes so he can get what he wants, essentially. They have more than enough money in New York City. They just don't spend it well. 40% of the city's budget goes to the Department of Education. And New York City's 4th graders are behind Florida's 4th graders when it comes to education. 4th grade is young enough to where there's still changes that could be made, but they're old enough to where you can see how the system they're operating in is. Also, around that time, kids go from learning to read to starting to read to learn. So 4th grade is an important time. That's why I talked about that age. So they spend more money and they get less results. Democrats have a spending problem. It's obvious. But that's all I've got for now. Don't forget I have a free email newsletter. Send that out every morning, 7 a.m. Central. Hope to see you there. The link is in my profile.
Yeah, that's Jeffrey Me. It's an excellent follow on Twitter. More on this. So about 40% of NYC's budget goes to the Department of Education. They perform worse than Florida and spend far more. But here's some other parts. So here they are, billions of dollars in debt, want to add another $11 billion to their budget, making their budget $10 billion more than the entire state of Florida. Remember, that includes all of Tampa, all of Jacksonville, all of Miami, all of Fort Myers, all of Sarasota, all of Bradenton, all of Daytona Beach. I think, and New York City has a higher budget than the entire state of Florida. Amazing, isn't it? So anyway, so here's some other things. So they want all this money. Let's break down what they spend their money on. All right, $5.6 million for the Office of Racial Equity every year. $4.6 million for the Commission on Racial Equity. So there's a total of $10 million on racial equity per year.
It's very important.
Okay, here's one. $835,000 for the Commission of Gender Equity.
Oh my gosh.
5.6 million, racial equity. 4.6 million, Commission on Racial Equity. $835,000 per year, Commission on Gender Equity. $220,000 for the Department of Education Chief Diversity Officer. $301,000 for the 3 FDNY Civilian Chief Diversity Inclusion Officers.
What did they do?
I don't know. Inclusion and diversity. Nothing. They didn't do anything all day except say those words. Inclusion and diversity. Inclusion and diversity. Inclusion and diversity. That's all they say. There's nothing. There's no way to enact inclusion and diversity. They'll orchestrate classes. Brent will testify to this. I'll testify to this because both of us have been victims of this. They're the ones who organize the classes that he and I had to go to as cops on gender equity and fairness all that crap, okay, whatever it is. So that's what they do, is orchestrate classes that force people like Brett and I to attend on racial equality and, understanding mental illness. I understand mental illness. Put your hands behind your back. You're Baker acted. There you go. Done. I've understood. That's the end of it. All right, so here's some more for you. Jason Curtis Anderson tweet. NYC employs 364,000 government employees in one city.
Jeez.
Help me. Of which only 31% are white.
Shocker.
70% are not white. I guess these Office of Racial Equity, Commission on Racial Equity. How is there any? Oh, he says it right here. What is the point of the Office of Racial Equity? To reduce the number to zero? Oh yeah, I got those numbers off the Mom credit is due. I got those numbers that I just read to you from the Mom Donnie Watch site on Twitter also. So there you go. Truly unbelievable. So I love that. What's the Office on Gender Equality, Racial Equality is to eliminate whites to zero, obviously. All right, let's go to the next one. At Chicago One Ray video. So this, they got their equity officers, but here's the problem. Multiple people pushed onto the subway tracks in Brooklyn by a maniac with over 50 arrests. Play for me.
This bag is yours?
So as I'm reading the offices that were of the utmost priority or are of the utmost priority in Mom Donnie's NYC, they have the Office of Racial Equity, Commission on Racial Equity. I mean, if you're going to have an Office of Racial Equity, then of course you have to have a commission on racial equity. And then you have to have a commission on gender equity. If you're going to have a commission on gender equity, then you have to have a Department of Education Chief Diversity Officer. So I'm just wondering, where is the Chief Diversity Officer or the Office of or the Commission of not having our white citizens pushed onto railroad tracks, onto the subway tracks? I mean, is there a commission for that? And how to keep our own citizens from being pushed onto the subway tracks? I'm just curious because there's an awful lot of people being pushed onto subway tracks. But don't worry, this is how they attack it as a Democrat. And as Brent was talking about, this is why people running from Democrat cities. You have all these people being pushed onto the subway tracks. But don't worry, you have an Office of Racial Equity, so it doesn't really matter. That's how you solve that problem. Now, the Democrats, this is a Derek Evans video. The Democrats believe they're going to have this giant blue wave that's coming in November for them. And, maybe it'll happen. I can't say that it isn't. But here's the thing. It also might not happen. And it's not looking good in it's governors. Okay, this is where I got that from. So it's not looking good specifically with governors either. And governors really are the most powerful positions in America. So how's that state of the blue wave going? Play for me.
Electoral races nationwide should stand as a wake-up call for Democrats, because take a look here. The race raiders, governors post-2026 election, at least tilting to the Republicans. Look at this. A majority, 26. That is, at this point, the number of governors that are expected, at least tilting towards the Republican Party at this point. Democrats come in at just 20. The rest of the races are toss-up. Of course, you sum up to 50. And I will note that the Republicans right now hold a 26 to 24 gubernatorial seat advantage. So at this point, it doesn't look like Republicans on the net and the aggregate are actually going to lose any governorships. In fact, when you add in those toss-ups, they may gain. So this should stand as a major wake-up call to Democrats, because if there's a wave building, it has not, at least at this point, hit the state level when it comes to governorships.
I can't imagine anybody that actually pays attention. I mean, even if you're a leftist, I don't get you voting for Democrats because your life just gets worse every time you do. But this blue wave that they're really believing in, and they speak very positively about it, in a very overconfident way about it, it may not happen at all. It's certainly not happening in gubernatorial elections, just so you know. All right, now there again, you have to excuse me. It's another guilty pleasure. I'm going to spend a couple minutes attacking the Clintons because it's just fun. I really just enjoy attacking Clintons. Clintons are supposed to be showing up. Aaron, today's the 20th, right?
Yeah.
So next week, the Clintons, or the week after, the Clintons are supposed to be showing up for the depositions on Epstein. Any odds on whether they're going to show up or not? Anybody want to bet?
No.
Okay, so there was 3-4 months worth of negotiations to get them to show up for the first depots, and they both just no-showed them. Weird, though, because, Bannon and Navarro basically no-showed theirs, or just refused to speak. I can't remember which. Their congressional subpoenas from a select committee and from, unselect committee, but I won't digress into that. It really wasn't a select committee. But this is a legit select committee because Democrats were actually allowed to select their members. And the Clintons both no-showed. And funny, Aaron, have you found where Cash Patel's all over that, right?
No.
They have to be arrested by now.
No.
Because Navarro and Bannon were, remember?
Yep.
They just simply no-showed. They refused to obey their congressional subpoenas from people who couldn't issue them, but I digress once again. These were actually lawfully issued, and they no-showed, but I'm sure they got strongly worded letters, though. Aren't you glad we won? Cash Patel's just a bulldog, isn't he? What's the FBI even doing right now? Anybody even heard of what they're doing? Are they doing anything? I mean, Aaron was asking earlier, what is the Office of Racial Equity, Commission of Racial Equity, Commissioner of Gender Equity, Department of Educational Chief Diversity Officer? What do these people do all day long in NYC? I'm just curious, what's the FBI doing right now? Any idea? I mean, there's countless crimes.
Yeah.
I mean, we now have countless crimes, tons and tons of crimes. I mean, we have the admission from doctors that they've been lopping off penises, testicles, and breasts for years, and the science was all junk. Where's the FBI? I'm just curious. I mean, we see the absolute rampant fraud. See this stack, folks? This is what gets me in trouble with Aaron. Okay, it's like, I'm not going to get to hardly any of it. It's already I can't believe, I'll do this for Brent. I can't believe it's already 9:57. But it's just $8 billion worth of fraud. I'm going to try to get to the Gavin Newsom part here. But anyway, I'll get to that. But all this fraud keeps being shown and brought out, realized. And where's the FBI? I'm just curious. I mean, shouldn't we be getting daily reports about the arrests in Minneapolis?
Yep.
Shouldn't we be getting daily reports? Because these are federal crimes. And Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. Brent, correct me if I'm wrong. You're a former cop. Doesn't the FBI deal with federal crimes? And they don't pull people over speeding. No. They don't go to your local domestic calls or burglary calls. Don't they go and arrest people for federal crimes?
It's supposed to be big crimes.
Big crime, right? Big crimes, because they're the greatest cops. They're the greatest cops.
Right.
They're absolutely useless lawyers and social workers who wouldn't even know what to do with two screaming people in a domestic. No. Watch them. But you know what the FBI would do if they walked into a domestic? Take both their thumbs and shove them up their rectums. That's what they would do. No, they would shove one up their rectum and one in their mouth. They have no idea what to do. Because they're not cops. That's why they lose every gun battle they're ever in. But anyway, I digress once again. And why they have to show up at Roger Stone's house at 5 o'clock in the morning in full tactical gear and have a frog man in his canal. That's how stupid they are. But anyway, so I'm just curious, what's the FBI doing? But anyway, and they certainly aren't arresting Bill and Hillary, who both blew off congressionally issued subpoenas, which has been deemed a crime because Bannon and Navarro both went to prison for it, as the only two people in federal prison guilty of misdemeanors. But don't worry, it's a fair and balanced judicial system, right? Right. So anyway, Rocky video. I just have to show you this coming from the PBD. And it's guilty pleasure. It's just a guilty pleasure time. And I just, in light of the Epsteins and everything else, let's have some fun and let's attack the Clintons. Play it for me.
I want you to think about this for a second. Vinny, Adam, Tom, and the rest of the world, you love Trump, you don't love Trump. Wherever you are, it is what it is. Imagine you're going up against somebody in a debate whose husband was a president before, who a lot of people in the White House liked him. He was a two-term president who's known for being a womanizer, got caught with a girl in his office named Monica Lewinsky that he had to come and light first. I have never. And then I apologize. I take responsibility and all the other stuff that happened afterwards.
And it was wrong.
His wife is trying to be a president. His wife and the other people that ran afterwards that became president are friends. and they all hate this guy named Donald Trump. You ran the FBI. You know the Epstein files. You know what's in it. It's been running for 4 years. And the guy that you're debating decides to do this in a debate. Play this clip. People have forgotten this clip. Go ahead, Rob.
Jeff from Ohio asks on Facebook, Trump says the campaign has changed him. When did that happen? So, Mr. Trump, let me add to that. When you walked off that bus at age 59, were you a different man, or did that behavior continue until just recently? And you have 2 minutes for this.
As I told you, that was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it.
This is the part about grabbing by the...
I am a person who has great respect for people, for my family, for the people of this country, and certainly I'm not proud of it. But that was something that happened. If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse, minor words, and his was action. His was what he's done to women. There's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women. So you can say any way you want to say it, but Bill Clinton was abusive to women. Hillary Clinton attacked those same women.
Wait for it, folks.
And attacked them viciously. 4 of them here tonight. One of the women, who is a wonderful woman,
shocked on
at 12 years old, was raped at 12. Her client, she represented, got him off, and she's seen laughing on 2 separate occasions, laughing at the girl who was raped. Kathy Shelton, that young woman, is here with us tonight. So don't tell me about words. I apologize for those words. But it is things that people say. But what President Clinton did, he was impeached. He lost his license to practice law. He had to pay an $850,000 fine to one of the women. He's in the audience. Wow. Paula Jones, who's also here tonight. Wow. And I will tell you that...
Did America forget this day?
Hillary brings up a point like that, and she talks about words that I said 11 years ago.
Wow.
I think it's disgraceful, and I think she should be ashamed of herself, if you want to know the truth.
Okay, pause it right here. Let me ask you guys a question. This scene happened. The world erupts. Okay? Who's Hillary calling right after this meeting? What's the first phone call? I have my first phone call. Who do you think she's calling? Comey. Hey, what dirt do you have on this guy? What do we have? How come they never brought anything out? How come they had to revert to a Russia collusion that ended up being fake, that they spent some $35 million on? How come they did not? If you were in the Epstein files and you had done something, would you be this bold?
What was your reaction when you saw some of the material that has been released? I'm thinking, for example, of images of your husband apparently in a hot tub in a swimming pool on Epstein's plane. What was your reaction to that? And do you know the context surrounding some of those images?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a hot tub on a plane. It was one of the stops they made to look at philanthropic and charitable work that my husband has done, saving literally millions of lives around the world. It turned out that was done long before there was any public awareness and certainly any conviction of any crime by Jeffrey Epstein. So it was a short period of time that was in pursuit of charitable philanthropic work. A lot of people were traveling at the same time. Many staff members, guests, other supporters of the foundation. If Bill and I had a penny for every person we've taken pictures with, we would be extremely rich today.
Oh, the foundation. Remember, we covered the tax returns from the foundations. Bill's flying all over the globe for his charitable work with Jeffrey Epstein. And I guess you call banging underage kids charity. I don't know. But anyway, the charitable work. Remember, they brought in, and this was one of the years, and it was somewhere close to where we began the podcast. So maybe like 2019, whatever it may be, when she still had, they've lost a lot of this because they don't have any much political influence anymore because neither one of them are in office. But one year they brought in $36 million. That was what they reported to the IRS, to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation. $36 million. Now Bill's flying all over the globe in Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express, banging chicks. Doing charitable work. But remember, in their tax returns, they collected $36 million in donations. Of the $36 million, they gave away $5 million. They did $5 million worth of charitable work. That doesn't even mean they handed out cash. They just basically, out of that $36 million, they did $5 million worth of charitable work. And and then they assign a monetary value to it. So Bill's charitable work could be sitting in the hot tub on Epstein Island, and they put $1 million value on that. But you just simply look at the numbers. They collected $36 million to give out $5 million. The classic NGO. And I just have to remind everybody of this one. Gain a Fauci video, proof that Bill and Hillary Clinton are very honest. Play it for me.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
He turned his back on questions as the First Lady followed, applauding.
It's how repulsive these people are. Hillary already knew Bill was banging Monica. She already knew about the scar and her being on her knees under his desk. She knew about all of that. And as he lies 2 ways. He never had sex with her, and he didn't tell anybody to lie. He told people to lie, and he had sex with her. And she knows all of that. And as he turns his back and takes no questions, and the room is applauding, she's applauding too. And then spends the rest of the year, or I mean, again, I don't know if it's a year or a month or a week or whatever, but spends a considerable amount of time afterwards denigrating Monica Lewinsky. Just like she did his other victims, like Paula Jones, denigrates them, says it isn't true. And Billy, to do his credit, Billy goes to the mat, okay? Billy goes to the mat. Like with Paula Jones, they basically had to look at his penis because she had a very apt description of his penis, and he took it all the way to where they actually had to look at his penis to prove that she had seen his penis. Okay, that's the truth. That's what happened, and she had to pay. And he paid Paula Jones $850,000. So that's who these people are, and that's what it means to be a Democrat. And listen, I know there's Republicans that are almost as repulsive, but there's nobody as repulsive as Bill and Hillary, and nobody, and all the deaths that follow them everywhere too, which we could spend 10 podcasts on. But it's so repulsive. And you know your husband's a liar. You've already caught him in numerous adulterous relationships. You know he's banging Monica. And yet there you are. I mean, you're just a disgusting human being. Absolutely disgusting human being. Speaking of disgusting human beings, let's finish with Gavin Newsom tonight. Wall Street Apes video, Gavin Newsom just released thousands of, I don't know if it's supposed to be thousands of illegal alien drug traffickers, sexual predators. Oh yeah, there's thousands. It's actually a total of 4,561 illegal alien drug traffickers, sexual predators, and murderers who were in prison back onto the streets of California. So now, so that ICE can't just simply pick them up in prison. I mean, again, if you're a Democrat in 2026, this is what it means. That you have a governor who will likely be your nominee for president because the people who they're contending, Obama wants Abigail Spanberger out of Virginia. That's who he wants. He's already made that public. And then you got JB Fatboy Pritzker, and then you got Gavin Newsom, Wes Moore out of Maryland, whatever. Another, I call him Dime Store Obama, Dollar Store Obama, whatever it is. I like Dime Store better. It sounds better. It sounds more hoodish. But anyway, like a dime bag. Like dime bag. That's what I should call Hakeem Jeffries, is dime bag Obama. But anyway, so this is likely to be the Democratic nominee for president coming up. And to be a Democrat in 2026 means that you want to make sure that 4,561 drug traffickers, sex predators, and murderers are not picked up by ICE. What would be your virtuous reason behind that? I'm just curious as a Democrat. If you were watching your Democrat, log on to Rumble and send your virtuous reasons to me in the chat. Anyway, this is the Wall Street Apes video, but it's the older millennial. Play it for me.
So in an effort to make sure that ICE didn't deport anybody, Gavin Newsom has just authorized the release of 4,561 criminal illegal immigrants that were in prison. And just for some added clarity, let's break down those numbers a little bit. So in total, 4,561 illegal immigrants convicted of additional crimes were just released. Of those, 1,489 were convicted of drug trafficking, 31 were convicted of murder. 379 of them were convicted of possession of illegal firearms. 234 of them were convicted sexual predators. And California is on track to release another 33,000 by the end of 2026. These are not people who just illegally came to the U.S. These are people who did illegally come to the U.S. and then committed other heinous crimes. And thanks to Gavin Newsom, 4,561 of them are back on the streets in California.
Back on the streets, baby, with another 33,000 waiting in the wings. They'll make sure that he releases prior to leaving office. And just so you know, the gubernatorial election right now is looking pretty favorable for Republicans inside of California. That may turn, but it may happen. I don't know. We'll have to see. Hilton's running. I like him. He's running for governor of the state of California. So is Swallowswell, as he's also doing it. Just imagine being a Democrat in 2026 means protecting traffickers, sex predators, and murderers from ICE. That's what it means to be a Democrat in 2026. This is just a funny video here. It's not funny. It's actually true. But anyway, it's not as ominous as sex traffickers, sex predators, and murderers. But Newsom, get this now. Patricia Video. Newsom is releasing a new grading scale for kids in school in the state of California. Play for me.
California is about to make a 21% a passing grade. You heard that correctly. Gavin Newsom's California is rolling out a new radical grading system in San Francisco public high schools that would allow students to pass with just a 21 out of 100 or a 2 out of 10. You got 2 questions right, you're good, you get the pass. And it's being done without parental approval, without a school board vote, and with almost zero public discussion. And they're calling it, get this, grading for equity. But it's not about equity at all. It's about lowering the bar until there's nothing to step over. This new policy eliminates homework, weekly tests, even penalties for skipping class or turning in homework assignments late. It allows for students to take their assessments, their exams and their quizzes, final exams, over and over until they score a passing grade. It's all about the final score, folks. And get this, an 80% is now considered an A. This isn't education, it's grade inflation on steroids. The district buried these details deep in a 25-page agenda and hoped nobody would notice. But now the parents are pissed, they're waking up, and well, they're quite furious over this. The question is, why is this happening? And it's not about helping students succeed. It's about manipulating the metrics to hide how broken the system truly is. It's about pushing kids through a system that's abandoned academic excellence.
It's just like hiding crime numbers. You don't actually solve crimes. You don't reduce crime. You just stop reporting the crime, or you change crimes into non-crimes, which is what Muriel Bowser has been doing in D.C. for years. Oh, we lowered the crime rate. No, you didn't. Let's just say you had 5,000 burglaries the year before. Now you just reclassified 2,500 of them into lower level crimes that are still actually burglaries, but you reclassify them as thefts or trespassings. And you say, well, 2,500 down from last year's 5,000. No, you just reclassified 2,500 of them. That's what you did. And that's what they're doing here too. Imagine how many, most of you in here, like Brett's a lot younger than me, and he was talking about it. And Aaron's probably roughly the same age range, where we were all, we're of different generations, but it shows you how things are changing so quickly. Because like when I was in school, the worst or the easiest it ever was, I think, was when I was at the University of Central Florida. I think it went with the basic 10-point margin, 90 to 100 A, 80 to 90 B, 70 to 80 C, 60 to 70 D, and then under 60 F, right? I think that was the easiest one. When I was in high school, it wasn't. It was 69 or below was failing. So anyway, now look at what they're doing in California. This is not so, well, there is, I was going to say, it's not so kids can pass. That's not it's not even so kids can pass, which in and of itself is not a positive thing. You don't want to just let kids pass. I was watching a video the other day of a woman who is enrolled in the University of Connecticut who's illiterate because she was passed through illiterate, can't read or write, but is enrolled at the University of Connecticut. And I don't remember whether it was Connecticut itself was the state that means she's passed, get this, kindergarten, nursery school, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade without being able to read or write. How did she pass the 1st grade without being able to read or write? How did she pass the 4th grade without being able to read or write? Whereas earlier where Jeffrey Mead was talking about, that's where it changes from learning to read to reading to learn. but she somehow passed the 4th grade, passed the 6th grade to get out of elementary school, passed the 8th grade to get out of middle school, passed the 12th grade to get out of high school, and somehow was accepted into a prestigious university without being able to read or write on the SATs. Can you explain that to me? I would love, probably because she's a Democrat. But I mean, but this year is not about trying to even make kids feel better about themselves, which is crap too. This is simply being able to say, look at all the kids that are passing in our schools by changing the metric. There's no more kids passing. You just made a lot more passing grades. You just made it a whole lot easier to pass. There's not more kids passing. I mean, look at this. That's their current grade scale that Aaron has up on the screen there. The current grade scale is you pass with a 24. You get a 24. You get less than a quarter of the answers right, and you pass. That's not even good enough. So they must have so many people failing that they even have to change that to 21. I wonder what the new other scale. So that everything goes down. That means 81 to 100% is now an A. So all you need is 81%, which was that was a high C when I was in high school, is now an A in the state of California. So they can say, look at all of our A students. It's not more kids earning A's. You just changed the requirement for an A. That's the way it is. Got to show you this. Steve Hilton for governor video. It's just extortion. Play for me.
The other things that Governor Newsom is doing for his wife that they didn't want to talk about at this press conference, which is the California Partners Project, which is her nonprofit. And he has behested, we've talked about these behested payments before, where he can pick up the phone and call people or companies with business before the state and ask them to donate to this nonprofit run by his spouse. And so far, he has behested $4.28 million for it by doing this. And obviously, when he makes these calls, the power of his office and what he can do is behind that request. And so this is completely legal in California as long as you fill out the forms correctly. It's called a behested payment. In other states, it's called extortion. But directly benefiting in one way or another his own family, he makes these calls, $4.28 million total. It's just extortion. There's no other word for it. We know why the public officials are asking for the money. We don't really always know why these entities are paying it. And this is at the local level, too. The mayor of Los Angeles does it. This is a category of payments with no limit, no contribution limit. So it can be millions of dollars at a time, and in some cases has been. And it's supposed to be for a good and righteous purpose, either legislative, governmental, or charitable. So Mrs. Newsom's entity is considered charitable. What do? I'm not sure.
They do absolutely nothing. That's what they do. They do nothing all day long. But here's the thing. People are like, well, all right, it's absolutely extortion. And by the way, I just want to congratulate everybody because I can guarantee you a lot of that is federal NGO money that is filtered through the state of California into Gavin Newsom's wife's charity, which I would love to know her salary for whatever. It's the California something project. I would love to know what her salary is. What she's passionate about in life, literally, she wakes up in the morning and she says, you know what my passion is? Lopping off penises. That really is. That's her passion in life, is to lop off penises. The typical leftist woman. She wants to lop off penises and abort babies and lop off penises so men can't have babies and invert vaginas and sew on phallic symbols onto women pretending to be men and lop off their breasts also so that they can't have babies. Give people puberty blockers so they can't have babies, and then kill the babies that they do have. That's her passion. She's an absolute demon act, that woman. And she just secured $4.28 million from her husband in what's called a behested payment, which is legal in the state of California, but in not many other states. It would be called extortion in every other state. But anyway, so I would love to know what it is because it's a classic NGO thing. She gets $4.28 million. And you're like, well, it goes to the charity. Yeah, but what does she get paid to run the charity? She get $500,000 a year to run the charity. It's typical NGO where they receive $20 million and pay themselves $19 million to disseminate $1 million. Is it that sort of institution? It's just all so corrupt, and you're wondering why it is that we're $38 trillion in debt. It's so that Gavin Newsom can funnel money to his wife. That's why. It is that corrupt, and it really is that simple. All right, that's it. 10:19 on a Friday night. We got a couple rants?
Yep, we got 8 of them.
8 rants. Let's hit it.
Natedad1 donated $100.
Holy
no rant,
moly.
Just love for the whole
Love
crew.
right back to you. Thank you for the huge rant, Natedad1. Really appreciate you, man. Love you right back. Go to the next one.
Graffiti Bug donated $10. I am grateful for this podcast and ministry. Thank you.
Thank you, Graffiti Bug, man. Really do appreciate you right back. Really do. And people don't know, pastor's number one passion, if they're a decent pastor, is attendance. I love the regular people. 528 people watching right now. Love each and every one of you. Go to the next one for me.
Robin Aroni donated $5. Dare to Be was amazing. Made it back in time for TLP. Have a blessed weekend. See you Sunday.
Dare to Be is my wife's women's ministry event here at Foundation Church. Thank you for pubbing it. Robin Aroni, love you right back. Go to the next one for me.
Jesus' Mighty Name donated $10. How about saying a prayer to start and end the show? We need more prayer in Jesus' mighty name.
We do need more prayer. I can't guarantee you that I'm going to do that. I just kind of pray when I feel like I'm supposed to pray, so I don't do a lot of that. But anyway, I love you, appreciate you, and if you're going to have a handle of Jesus' mighty name, you're probably going to advocate for prayer. Love you. Go to the next one for me.
Nated Dad 1 donated $10. Let me get this straight, because children don't need to be told if they are boy or girl. They spend millions on trying to re-educate them into confusion.
Absolutely right, and that's what Gavin Newsom's wife that received $4.28 million from her husband, that's what she's on and about doing. Go to the next one for me.
Joel's 21 Hours donated $10. Thank you, TLP team. See you all Sunday.
All right, Jules, see you on Sunday. Love you. Love you. My she's a very faithful. Love you so much. Go to the next one for me.
Joel's 21 Hours ago donated $10. Prayers, please, for a friend's son who deployed yesterday for the Middle East. Army long-range missiles.
There you go. In Jesus' name, you get prayer right now. We just pray over this soldier. Keep them completely, totally safe, Lord. And put your hand upon them. If they don't know you, draw them to the cross. If they do know you, deepen them in their faith. Keep them safe. Bring them home and bless everything they do in Jesus' mighty name. Got anything else, Aaron?
Last one.
Last one. Here we go.
USAB Girl donated $20. TLP, the most dangerous show on Rumble, and Foundation Church, the most dangerous church in America. So grateful that the Lord led me to both. Love my TLP and Foundation Church family. C was at R+.
Love it. Seriously, love you right back. And really, it is true. The most dangerous, I'll just say it because TLP is part of the ministry, the most dangerous ministry / church in America. It really is, because it is for the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrows, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. Hebrews 4:12. And it's great too, because 4:13 says, not a creature exists that is concealed from his sight, but all things are open and exposed and revealed to the eyes of him with whom we have to give an account. That's the verse right after the word of God. Amazing, isn't it? And we preach the word here, hellfire and brimstone and the promises of God, which reminds me, great, that was a great segue.
Yep.
Great segue. Foundation Church this Sunday. If you can't be here in person, and if you're close, be here in person. Don't wimp out and stay at home. But if you can't be here in person, I don't care where you live. Don't go to a COVID caving church. Don't go to a church that waters down the gospel. Don't go to a church that doesn't preach hellfire and brimstone. Don't go to a church that tells you that you're not supposed to be wealthy. Don't go to a church that tells you you're not supposed to be well. Go to a church who preaches the gospel of Jesus Christ, both the negative and the positive, even though none of it's really actually negative. But go to a church that preaches the gospel, since very few do. If you don't have a church like that, if you're in Idaho right now, join us make this your home church. Join us this Sunday at Foundation Church at 10 o'clock Eastern time. If you can't be here in person, join us online. If I don't see you in church on Sunday, back on Monday at 9 o'clock at night. As always, stick around for the post game. You're going to love it. Love you guys. Love you. Have a great weekend. God bless you.
Michael, do you know what the leading cause of death for pregnant people is?
Pregnant people? Mm-hmm. Mothers? Women?
If you'd like to call them mothers, not all of them are mothers, but if you'd like to call them that.
What are they if they're not mothers?
They're pregnant people.
What people other than mothers are pregnant?
Does it bother you to use inclusive language?
Well,
it's just interesting.
I prefer to use precise language.
It's interesting because you come into this conversation, trying to hold this moral superiority, but then I
try to be moral when I can, but
Right, but when I use inclusive language, which it only takes a couple extra syllables to use inclusive language.
To include who?
It seems to include people who don't, identify as women but can become pregnant.
Like a person who's born a woman and then identifies as a man and is pregnant.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that in order to be a moral person, I need to accept the idea that a man, someone who is born a man and looks like a man, can really become a woman. That's a prerequisite of my being a moral person.
I mean, yes. To me it is.
I would like to identify, I do identify actually, as the correct person on this issue of abortion. I identify as being correct and more correct than you on this issue. And I would just ask that you accept and affirm my identity. Do you?
Well, you are not a medical professional, and abortion and pregnancy is a medical concern. That's not your identity.
That is my identity. I promise you, that's my identity.
Well, I'm not even talking about social context. I'm just trying to start by getting to the truth, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth. Again, in social life.
Why is that uncomfortable?
Because it sounds actually deeply transphobic to me. And if you keep probing, we're going to stop the interview.
If I probe about what the truth is?
You keep invoking the word truth, which is condescending and rude. I'm saying to you...
How is the word truth condescending and rude?
Why don't you tell me what your truth is, and you're walking on 30 seconds more of thin ice before I get up.
What my truth?
Hi everyone, my name's Victoria. And I'm Katrina, and we're the co-founders of Freedom Hijab. We are Muslim reverts, and we started the business about a year ago. We love hijab, and we want you to love hijabs too. So we're excited to meet you and come connect with us. For now, we're mainly an e-commerce business. We also attend lots of festivals, bazaars, and you can find us on social media, and our website is freedomhijabs.ca.
20-30 years later, and you come back home, you're like, well, why isn't someone telling me, you know, where's my toilet paper? Well, no, you got to go buy it, you know, and so that's the shift, and that's what we're bringing here. And so that, you know, reentry starts here, man, in the mindset. You got to shift. So when you come out, you're at peak, man. It's like a sprinter running a 100-yard dash. You're at peak. You're not just starting up. And so forgive me the long-windedness, but
it will actually reduce the deficit by $4 trillion over the long term. Reducing the waste and inefficiency in Medicare and Medicaid will pay for most of this plan. It will slow the growth of healthcare costs for our families, our businesses, and our government. There will be a provision in this plan that requires us to come forward with more spending cuts if the savings we promised don't materialize.
He was not satisfied at home. I don't know how many different girlfriends he had during this time, but I think there were quite a few. Young women, listen to my advice. If you're married and you think you're happily married and your husband starts to cheat on you, he's a piece of shit. And look at him as a piece of shit and get out of it. Get out of that marriage. But I couldn't do that. Couldn't walk away.
Didn't you have an affair early on in the relationship, or when you were
yeah, but I don't think Andy ever knew about that.
He did say he knew about it.
He did?
Yes, you would confess to him.
Oh.
He says he didn't stray from the marriage until you told him you had already strayed.
Oh, that's not true. I don't think.
But what happened? You had an affair?
I had a very brief affair with a very attractive Irish man. And it was just nothing.
I don't tell anybody to do anything. I don't try to control any other human beings in any way, shape, or form. They do it this way. I say it all the time. We're in the fight business, and you know, if you get your feelings hurt that bad, you probably shouldn't ask the type of questions when you know the answer you're going to get from Strickland. Let's start there. You know what I mean? If you ask him, you know who he is, and if you ask him a certain question, he was baited in that question. I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
Like...
Free speech. Control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe. Going to tell people... I don't tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them.
God also said the gospel cuts you before it comforts you. It's really biblical. Remember Acts chapter 2 on the day of Pentecost? Peter's telling the people in Jerusalem, you killed our Messiah. And the response, it says the people were cut to the heart. They weren't comforted by the truth. They were disrupted by the truth. I tell you that because the church has a misunderstanding. We've got the wrong expectation. We've been trying to give messages that comfort ungodly behavior. That's not what the gospel does. The gospel disrupts you. It makes you uncomfortable with ungodly behavior. You can be cleansed. You can be made as if you've never sinned. But first you have to be told, no, that behavior will lead to destruction.
This podcast is all about. We talk about a lot of political things, but underneath all of that is the Bible. I am unapologetically 100% in favor of is the Bible. Jesus is the Word. There is no delineation. If the Bible says it, that's what Jesus is, and that's what Jesus believes. That's what this podcast is actually about, is to actually alert people to what is coming and what is our responsibility in the midst of it.